It's been a decade since the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons was released, and Wizards of the Coast has finally decided to update the rules. Whether that fills you with dread or mild curiosity, these changes will affect how we all play. Before you start calculating the cost of replacing your entire collection, Wizards assures us everything remains compatible with existing material. How reassuring. Let's examine the 5 biggest rule changes you'll need to know before your next session inevitably devolves into arguments about how the new rules work. First up, backgrounds. Previously, these were glorified footnotes that gave you a couple of skills and perhaps a slightly interesting personality trait that most players ignored after session 1. In 2024, backgrounds have become the mechanical core of character creation, as backgrounds now grant ability score bonuses that were previously tied to your race. Let me demonstrate with a halfling barbarian, because someone always wants to play one. Old rules. Your halfling gives you +2 dexterity, regardless of background or upbringing, making your barbarian concept fundamentally flawed from the start. New rules. Your background gives you +2 strength and +1 constitution, while your halfling heritage merely provides lucky and brave traits. Suddenly, your impractical character concept is marginally less impractical. Backgrounds also grant an origin feat, because apparently we needed more reasons to spend 3 hours on character creation. Next, weapon mastery. The system that attempts to address the age-old complaint that martial characters are just glorified dice-rolling machines, while spellcasters reshape reality by offering melee classes more flexibility and depth. The new system features 8 mastery properties tied to specific weapons. Each property gives you something slightly more interesting to do than simply hitting things repeatedly. For example, battle axes have cleave to hit a second enemy, assuming you can find 2 standing close enough together. Crossbows have slow, to reduce movement, if your target survives long enough to move. Longswords have puncture, to reduce AC, as if armor suddenly develops convenient gaps. In practical terms, this means your fighter can now say, "I use cleave," instead of, "I hit it," every 3rd round or so. Revolutionary. The old exhaustion system was like a wedding seating chart, needlessly complex and generally ignored. 6 different levels with different effects at each stage meant most DMs filed it under too much hassle to track. The 2024 version simply applies a -2 penalty to all D20 rolls and reduces your speed by 5 feet per level until you die at level 6. Elegantly straightforward, like a guillotine. This means your DM will finally implement exhaustion rules because they're no longer more complicated than filing taxes. The surprise rules in 5e were written specifically to generate table arguments. Surprised creatures couldn't move or take actions on their first turn, but could take reactions after their turn in the initiative order. This made perfect sense to absolutely no one. The 2024 rules have, quite reasonably, simplified this. If a creature is caught off guard when combat begins, they're surprised. This simply means they have disadvantage on their initiative roll. That's it. Here's how it works. Your rogue sneaks up on guards. Guards are surprised. Instead of losing their entire turn like some sort of temporal anomaly, they roll initiative with disadvantage and proceed normally. This change will save approximately 47 minutes of argument per session, which could be better spent arguing about other rules instead. Inspiration in 5e was theoretically awarded for good role-playing, but practically speaking, it was that thing DMs and players mutually agreed to forget about after character creation. The new Heroic Inspiration attempts to make it worth remembering. When you have Heroic Inspiration, you can re-roll any die immediately after rolling it, but you must take the new roll. If you gain Heroic Inspiration, and already have it, you can pass it to another player who doesn't have it. This might actually be useful enough to remember you have it. The ability to re-roll any die, attack rolls, saving throws, ability checks, or even damage, provides a slim chance of avoiding the inevitable TPK your DM has planned. The option to pass it along, if you already have Heroic Inspiration, means your party's overachieving role player can finally share the wealth with the player who hasn't spoken in character since Session 2. While we're here, several other changes worth noting. Long rests now must have at least 16 hours between them, preventing the sleep-cast-sleep tactic that absolutely no one was abusing. Potions can now be drunk or administered as a bonus action, finally acknowledging what most tables have been house ruling since 2014. Crafting has been expanded with comprehensive rules that will be promptly ignored in favour of, I want to make a thing, what do I roll? Firearms are now standard martial weapons in the core rules, for when you absolutely must bring a gun to a dragon fight. You can now draw or stow one weapon as part of an attack, eliminating the tedious object interaction tracking that everyone was definitely doing properly. There you have it, the 5 biggest changes to D&D's 2024 update, all compatible with your existing books, so you needn't turn them into Kindling just yet. These changes aim to make the game more streamlined and balanced. Whether they succeed or simply create new arguments remains to be seen. If you found this marginally helpful, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. If you've already implemented better house rules than these, feel free to explain in excruciating detail in the comments. Banana Breakdown, out.